Hello everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I am Aniba freelancing wali from Rehan School Lahore campus. I am a student of teacher training level 1. Hi.
Hey, welcome back. What's on your mind today?
What problems does Dan Pink identify with traditional reward and punishment system?
Yeah, so Dan Pink points out that traditional reward and punishment systems, what he calls carrot and stick approaches, tend to work well for simple mechanical tasks, but they often backfire when the work requires creativity or problem solving. In short, he argues that extrinsic rewards can actually reduce intrinsic motivation over time, making people less engaged, less creative, and less driven by the actual work itself.
What does Pink mean by motivation 2.0?
Great question. So, Motivation 2.0 is the old model. It's all about carrots and sticks, extrinsic rewards like bonuses or punishments. Pink contrasts this with Motivation 3.0, which is based on intrinsic factors, things like autonomy, mastery, and purpose. In this newer model, people are motivated by the satisfaction they get from the work itself and by having a sense of control and meaning in what they do.
How did the candle problem demonstrate the limits of external rewards?
Yeah, the candle problem is a classic experiment Pink talks about. In it, people are asked to fix a candle to a wall so it won't drip wax using a small set of materials like a box of tacks and the candle. What they found is that when participants were offered a financial reward, their performance actually got worse. In contrast, when the reward wasn't emphasized, people solved the problem more creatively and quickly. So it showed that extrinsic rewards can narrow our thinking, making us less likely to see creative solutions.
According to Pink, when do reward work well and when do they fail?
Exactly. Pink says rewards work well for simple, straightforward tasks, basically when there's a clear right answer and speed or efficiency matters. But when the task requires creativity, problem solving, or complex thinking, rewards often fail. In those situations, they can actually reduce motivation because the focus shifts purely to the reward, not the work itself.
What are the three elements of instinct motivation discussed in the talk?
Yeah, so Pink identifies three key elements: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy is about having control over what you do and how you do it. Mastery is the urge to get better and better at something that matters to you. And purpose is the sense that what you're doing has a bigger meaning or impact beyond just yourself.
How does autonomy influence employee performance and satisfaction?
Yeah, exactly. Pink argues that when employees have more autonomy, so more control over what tasks they take on, when and how they work, they tend to be more engaged, more creative, and ultimately perform better. Plus, that sense of ownership boosts their satisfaction because they feel like they're driving their own success, not just following orders.
What is mastery and why is it important for emotional motivation?
Yeah, so mastery is basically the drive to keep getting better at something that matters to you. It's not just about skill, it's about the continuous process of learning and improving. And it's really important for intrinsic motivation because people feel a deep sense of satisfaction when they see themselves improving. It taps into a core human need to grow and progress, which keeps them engaged in the long term.
How does purpose contribute to higher level of motivation?
Yeah, so purpose is really powerful because when people feel like their work has meaning, like it's part of something bigger than themselves, they're naturally more motivated. It gives them a sense of direction and a reason to push through challenges. So when people see how their efforts contribute to a larger goal or a greater good, they feel more purposeful and energized.
What evidence does Pink provide to support his arguments?
Yeah, Pink points to a bunch of research from psychology and behavioral economics. For example, he references studies like the candle problem and experiments on corporate performance and school motivation. He also cites examples from companies that shifted to more autonomy and purpose driven cultures, like Google or Atlassian, and how their employees became more productive and satisfied.
What changes does Pink suggest organizations should make to motivate people effectively?
Yeah, so Pink suggests that organizations should move away from purely extrinsic rewards and instead foster environments where autonomy, mastery, and purpose are front and center. He recommends giving employees more control over their work, providing opportunities for skill development, and connecting tasks to a larger, meaningful mission. In short, he pushes for a kind of motivation 3.0 workplace where people are driven by the joy of the work itself.
Do you agree? The financial reward can sometimes reduce creativity. Why or why not?
Yeah, I actually do agree with that, at least in many cases. I mean, when the task is straightforward, sure, a financial incentive can help. But for creative or complex work, extrinsic rewards can narrow your focus, like you might just aim for the quickest solution or a reward, rather than exploring more innovative approaches. So I think when creativity is key, intrinsic motivation really shines.
Which of the three elements, autonomy, mastery of purpose, do you think is most important? Explain.
Ooh, that's a really tough call because they're also intertwined. But if I had to choose, I might say purpose. Purpose really gives a deep sense of meaning and direction. When people feel what they do matters, they're often willing to work harder, stick through challenges, and really invest themselves. That said, all three definitely feed off each other, so it's really about balance.
How can schools apply Pink's ideas to improve students' motivation?
Yeah, that's a great question. Schools can really embrace Pink's ideas by giving students more autonomy, like letting them choose some of their projects or learning paths. They can also foster mastery by encouraging growth mindsets and giving ongoing feedback. And purpose can be integrated by connecting lessons to real world issues, so students see how their learning can make a difference.
Can you think a situation where external rewards helped you perform better?
Yeah, actually, I can think of a time in school. There was a big essay competition, and I got a scholarship if I did well. So the prize pushed me to research more thoroughly, organize my ideas, and meet the deadline. In that case, the external reward gave me a sense of urgency and focus that really helped me push me past my usual pace.
How might Pink's ideas change the way managers lead their team?
Yeah, so Pink's ideas could really shift managers from a top down, control oriented style to a more supportive coaching approach. They might give their team more autonomy, like letting them set goals, choose methods, or decide how to structure their work. Managers would also focus more on fostering mastery, helping people grow their skills, and connecting tasks to a meaningful purpose, so everyone feels more aligned and driven.
How does intrinsic motivation different from extrinsic motivation?
Yeah, so intrinsic motivation comes from within. You're driven by the enjoyment of the activity itself, the satisfaction of learning, or the sense of purpose. External motivation, on the other hand, relies on outside factors like rewards, punishments, or approval. Intrinsic motivation tends to be more sustainable and fulfilling, while external motivation often only works as long as the reward or pressure is there.
What examples of autonomy can you find in your own life?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one big example is when I get to choose how I structure my workday, like deciding which tasks I tackle first or when I take breaks. Another example is when I get to pick what projects I work on, or even how I approach a problem, so I have the freedom to experiment and figure out what works best for me.
Why do many organizations continue to rely on reward despite the research being present?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think a lot of organizations stick to rewards because they're familiar, easy to implement, and they feel like a quick fix. There's also a kind of cultural inertia. Managers are used to measuring performance that way. Shifting to autonomy and purpose takes more effort, trust, and sometimes a leap of faith. So not everyone is ready to make that change.
How can purpose make feel more meaningful?
Yeah, so purpose really acts like a compass. When people feel that their work is tied to a larger mission, whether it's helping others, contributing to a cause, or making a difference, they find more meaning in their daily tasks. That sense of purpose makes even challenging work feel worthwhile. So people are more resilient, more engaged, and ultimately more motivated to put in their best effort.
What is the most important lesson you learned from Dan Pink's talk?
I think the biggest lesson for me is that real motivation comes from within. When we have autonomy, when we're mastering something, and when we feel purpose. It really made me rethink the way I approach my own work and even how I think about motivating others.
Okay, thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.
You're very welcome. I'm